2017 National Electrical Code, specifically Section 422.31 A, clearly states that a circuit breaker can serve as the disconnecting means for appliances. Historically, prior to the adoption of this code requirement, installing a wall switch near the disposal and dishwasher was standard practice for disconnecting these appliances. This practice was rooted in safety considerations, providing a quick and easy way to cut power to the appliance in case of a malfunction or emergency. With the evolution of technology and the advent of plug-in dishwashers and disposals, the necessity for dedicated wall switches has decreased significantly. The National Electrical Code now permits these appliances to be connected to a circuit breaker as long as the circuit breaker is readily accessible and can serve as the disconnecting means. Despite the code changes, there are instances where installing a wall switch for dishwasher or disposal might still be desirable, even if not mandated by code. Firstly, if the appliance is situated in an inconvenient or hard-to-reach location, a wall switch offers a more accessible means of disconnection. Secondly, some individuals prefer having a dedicated switch for quick and easy control. Regarding the specific scenario of two wall switches wired in series, one for the dishwasher and one for the disposal, this setup likely reflects the older practice of using wall switches for appliance disconnection. Although not a requirement of the current National Electrical Code, such an arrangement might be considered unnecessary by today's standards. In summary, while installing a wall switch for a dishwasher or disposal is no longer a code requirement, it might be advisable in certain situations based on convenience or accessibility. However, in the majority of cases, utilizing a plug-in appliance and relying on the circuit breaker as the disconnecting means proves both sufficient and more convenient. Now let's delve deeper into the technical aspects. The National Electrical Code Article 422 covers the requirements for appliances. Article 422.31 specifically addresses disconnecting means. As previously mentioned, 422.31 allows a circuit breaker to be the disconnecting means. This means that if the circuit breaker is readily accessible to the appliance user, it can serve as the primary way to disconnect power. Readily accessible typically means that the circuit breaker is not behind locked doors or otherwise obstructed. Consider a scenario where a dishwasher is hardwired directly to the electrical system. In this case, a disconnecting means is required. Before the widespread adoption of accessible circuit breakers, a wall switch served this purpose. The switch provided a local and convenient way to de-energize the appliance for servicing or in case of an emergency. Now imagine a modern kitchen with a plug-in dishwasher. According to 422.16 (V2), the receptacle for the dishwasher must be readily accessible. This accessibility allows for easy unplugging of the appliance, serving as the disconnecting means. The same principle applies to disposals, as outlined in 422.16 (B1). The code allows for the receptacle to be accessible for disconnection. The historical practice of using wall switches was driven by safety concerns. Appliances, especially those involving water and electricity, pose potential hazards. A readily accessible switch allowed for quick power shutoff in case of a short circuit, water leak, or other malfunction. It's crucial to understand the concept of disconnecting means. A disconnecting means is a device or method used to isolate an appliance from its power source. Its primary purpose is to ensure safety during maintenance, repair, or emergency situations. In a scenario with two switches in series, the setup likely reflects a redundant safety measure from a time when electrical codes were less standardized. While not inherently dangerous, it's worth evaluating the necessity of such a configuration in modern installations. Firstly, consider the voltage drop. Every electrical component introduces some resistance, which can lead to a slight voltage drop. While a single switch has a negligible impact, two switches in series can cumulatively contribute to a noticeable drop, especially if the wiring is already undersized or the circuit is heavily loaded. Secondly, consider the reliability. Each additional component in a circuit increases the potential points of failure. If one of the switches fails, it can disrupt power to both the dishwasher and disposal. Therefore, simplifying the circuit by removing the redundant switch can enhance overall reliability. The National Electrical Code aims to provide a standardized approach to electrical safety. It's regularly updated to reflect technological advancements and address emerging safety concerns. When evaluating older electrical installations, it's essential to consider the code requirements in effect at the time of installation. What might have been considered acceptable practice in the past may not align with current code standards. When undertaking kitchen remodels or electrical upgrades, it's always advisable to consult with a qualified electrician. A licensed electrician can assess the existing wiring, identify any potential hazards, and ensure that all work complies with the latest National Electrical Code requirements. This ensures the safety and functionality of the electrical system. Furthermore, they can advise on the most appropriate disconnecting means for appliances, taking into account factors such as accessibility, convenience, and code compliance. Consider a scenario where a homeowner wants to replace an old hardwired dishwasher with a new plug-in model. In this case, the electrician would likely recommend removing the existing wall switch and installing a readily accessible receptacle under the sink. This approach simplifies the wiring and ensures compliance with current code standards. It's important to emphasize that electrical work can be dangerous and should only be performed by qualified individuals. Working with electricity requires specialized knowledge, skills, and tools. Attempting electrical work without proper training can lead to serious injury or property damage. Always prioritize safety and seek professional assistance when dealing with electrical systems. In conclusion, the presence of a wall switch for a dishwasher or disposal is often a historical artifact reflecting older electrical practices. While not necessarily a code violation, it's essential to evaluate the necessity and functionality of such installations in light of current National Electrical Code standards. In most cases, relying on a readily accessible circuit breaker or a plug-in appliance serves as a sufficient and more convenient disconnecting means. Remember to prioritize safety and consult with a qualified electrician when undertaking any electrical work. Now let's explore some additional factors regarding dishwasher and disposal installations. The location of the disconnecting means is crucial. The National Electrical Code requires that the disconnecting means be readily accessible to the user of the appliance. This means it should be located within sight of the appliance or be capable of being locked in the open position. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that the user can quickly and easily energize the appliance in case of an emergency. Consider a situation where the circuit breaker is located in a remote panel far from the kitchen. In this case, a local disconnecting means, such as a wall switch, might be desirable to provide a more convenient and readily accessible way to shut off power. However, it's important to note that even with a local disconnecting means, the circuit breaker still serves as the ultimate overcurrent protection device for the circuit. Another factor to consider is the type of wiring used for the appliance circuit. In older homes, it's not uncommon to find undersized wiring or outdated insulation. If the wiring is inadequate, it can pose a fire hazard, especially when powering high amperage appliances like dishwashers and disposals. When upgrading appliances, it's essential to ensure that the wiring is properly sized and in good condition. An electrician can assess the wiring and recommend necessary upgrades to ensure safety and code compliance. Grounding is another critical aspect of electrical safety. All appliances must be properly grounded to prevent electrical shock hazards. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the appliance. In older homes, the grounding system may not be up to current standards. An electrician can inspect the grounding system and make necessary improvements to ensure safety. Now let's discuss the specific requirements for dishwasher and disposal circuits. The National Electrical Code typically requires a dedicated circuit for each of these appliances. A dedicated circuit means that the appliance is the only load on that circuit. This helps prevent overloading and ensures that the appliance receives adequate power. The size of the circuit breaker and the wire gauge must be appropriate for the appliance's amperage rating. Refer to the appliance's nameplate for the specific electrical requirements. It is very important to never overload a circuit. Overloading can cause the circuit breaker to trip frequently or, in severe cases, lead to a fire. If you are unsure about the electrical requirements of your appliances, consult with a qualified electrician. In addition to dedicated circuits, the National Electrical Code also requires ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protection for receptacles located in kitchens. A GFCI is a device that detects ground faults, which are unintended paths for current to flow. Ground faults can occur when there is a break in the insulation of a wire or when an appliance comes into contact with water. GFCIs quickly interrupt the circuit when a ground fault is detected, preventing electrical shock hazards. The National Electrical Code requires GFCI protection for receptacles serving kitchen countertops and sinks. This includes receptacles used for dishwashers and disposals. When replacing a receptacle, it is important to install a GFCI receptacle in accordance with code requirements. The proper selection and installation of electrical components is crucial for safety and code compliance. Always use listed or certified products that have been tested and approved by a recognized testing laboratory. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for installation and use. Never attempt to modify or tamper with electrical equipment. Modification can void the warranty and create a safety hazard. Proper maintenance of electrical systems is also important. Regularly inspect wiring, receptacles, and appliances for signs of damage or wear. Replace damaged components promptly. Keep electrical panels and equipment clean and free of obstructions. Schedule periodic inspections by a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical system is in good condition and complies with current code standards. In addition to the technical aspects, it's important to consider the aesthetic aspects of electrical installation. Receptacles and switches should be installed in a neat and professional manner. Use appropriate cover plates and hardware. Avoid exposed wiring or loose connections. A well-installed electrical system enhances the appearance and value of your home. When planning a kitchen remodel, consider the placement of receptacles and switches. Locate them in convenient and accessible locations. Avoid placing them behind appliances or in areas where they might be obstructed. Consider the needs of the users and design the electrical system accordingly. Incorporate sufficient lighting to ensure adequate illumination for work areas. Consider under-cabinet lighting and task lighting to improve visibility and safety. Use energy-efficient lighting fixtures to reduce energy consumption and save money. Finally, remember that electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving. Stay up to date with the latest requirements and best practices. Consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical system is safe, compliant, and functional. By following these guidelines, you can create a safe and efficient electrical system for your home. Let's also discuss specific considerations related to the installation of disposals. A disposal is a device that grinds up food waste and flushes it down the drain. It is typically installed under the kitchen sink. The National Electrical Code has specific requirements for the wiring and installation of disposals. As mentioned earlier, the disposal typically requires a dedicated circuit and GFCI protection. The wiring must be properly sized for the disposal's amperage rating. The disposal must be properly grounded. It is also important to ensure that the disposal is properly installed and supported. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for installation. Avoid overloading the disposal with excessive amounts of food waste. Overloading can damage the motor and shorten the life of the disposal. Regularly clean the disposal to prevent odors and buildup. Use a disposal cleaner or a mixture of baking soda and vinegar. Never put metal objects or other non-food items into the disposal. These items can damage the disposal and create a safety hazard. If the disposal malfunctions, disconnect the power and consult with a qualified appliance repair technician. Do not attempt to repair the disposal yourself unless you are qualified to do so. Improper repairs can create a safety hazard. In some jurisdictions, there may be additional requirements for the installation of disposals. Check with your local building department for specific regulations. The proper installation and maintenance of a disposal is essential for safety and functionality. Follow the manufacturer's instructions and consult with a qualified professional if you have any questions or concerns. The knowledge and implementation of these code requirements and best practices is invaluable for ensuring electrical safety and compliance in residential settings. By understanding the historical context, current standards, and specific appliance requirements, one can make informed decisions regarding electrical installations and upgrades. Always remember to prioritize safety and seek professional assistance when dealing with electrical systems.